Jason, we might have recorded this episode yesterday, but I have been on quite the adventure of traveling in the last 24 hours or so.
I haven't talked to you in, 48 hours?
At least, yes.
Did you not have a smooth flight back home?
The flight itself was actually wonderful. Like there was a little bumpy, but it was great. However, my flight was supposed to take off at 4 p.m. and land at 7 p.m. And I was sitting on my plane, not having taken off yet, at 7 p.m. when I was supposed to have landed.
Oh, fun. I love those.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did you board on time?
We boarded on time. Everything's perfect. I texted, my family, and I was like, thanks for a great trip, like heading home on the plane, turning my phone off in airplane mode, talk to you later. And then I was turning my phone back on like 20 minutes later to say, oh, well, never mind, we're still here. So
did you have to deplane and replane? Because it just doesn't make you feel good. Or did you eventually just take off?
We eventually did just take off. 3+ hours late. But we did eventually, on the same plane, take off.
Do you know why it was delayed?
So here's the story. We get away from the gate. We are parked and ready to go. And we pulled away. They gave the whole safety spiel, in case of emergency, oxygen masks fall from the ceiling, bag may not inflate, oxygen is flowing, blah, blah, blah. And they do that whole thing. And then the captain comes on and goes, ladies and gentlemen from the flight deck, this is your captain. We can't get our brakes to release. And you're just like, what? So apparently we had to get towed back to the gate, and they had to call a third-party maintenance service or whatever to come out and look at the plane, which makes you feel really good. It took the third-party maintenance people an hour to get to the plane. And after about that hour, the gate agent came back down the jetway and it was like, hey guys, if anybody wants to get off the plane and get some food in the airport or whatever, you can just, give your name to us at the top of the jetway and we'll, let you back on whenever it's time or whatever. Just make sure you have a photo ID, which is fine. Great. Whatever. I was flying Southwest, which doesn't have assigned seats. And I had a seat that I actually really liked. So I was like, well, I don't really want to lose my seat. And I was flying alone. So I opted to stay in my seat and I just sat there. And so all said, I was sitting in the same plane seat for 8 hours for what should have been a 2.5 hour flight.
Cool. Yep. A little your fault because of your stubbornness, but cool.
Yes, it would have been fine. And actually what turned out though, what happened was my other row mates, right? My other two people in the little row of three, they actually bailed and gave up and I think got a different flight to somewhere else. So they never came back. So I actually had my whole little row to myself the whole flight. So that was
that's
the
nice.
Silver lining to this whole thing, I guess, is that I could spread out a little bit because I had the window seat. But
so what time did you end up getting home?
I got to my house about 1 a.m. and I was supposed to be at my house probably by about 8 p.m.
Okay, fun. Cool.
The funniest thing of this whole thing was they fixed the plane. Then they're like, we need more fuel. So we had to wait for fuel. Then the gate agent comes down and is like, oops, I didn't get photo ID from several people. So let me, push your call light and I'll go find your photo IDs. Great. Fine. Take off. Flight is great. They did have to delay the drink service because of some weather. And that's just, can't do anything about that. And then I'm watching the little flight thing on the map and I'm like, this looks like we're going in a circle. And then the captain comes on. Ladies and gentlemen, yep, it's me. It's your captain. Well, I got some not so great news. We are near our destination, but there's a little bit of weather, so we're in a holding pattern, and we have to wait until we can land. And so we'll be on the ground in 20 minutes. And that was not true. We were on the ground in 40 minutes. And then, because of the weather, the operations at the destination airport had gotten all screwed up. So then we sat on the tarmac for another hour and a half after we had landed.
No.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So.
All right. That one would have killed me.
Yeah. We land. We're on the ground. I can see the terminal. I can see the planes parked. And the guy, ladies and gentlemen, from the flight deck, it's me, your captain. I know you've been hearing a lot from me today. Got some bad news. We're on the clock now. We're number 2 in line for a gate, but the operations have screwed up on the ground, and so everything's all messed up, and we have to wait. Should be we should have an update for you in 10 to 15 minutes. We did not hear from the captain for an hour. And then finally,
God.
Yeah. So the other thing about this that's crazy is in order to move an airplane, you have to get all the people sitting in their seats. And once you're on the ground, people are very not motivated to be in their seats. And so like every time they wanted to even slightly move the plane, they had to get on the PA and get all the people to sit down, get everybody out of the lavatory and all that stuff back in their seats so that they could move the plane like 50 feet. And we did that like 3 or 4 times. It was crazy. They did serve water and snacks after like 45 minutes, which is nice. So they came by and did a quick water and snack run, which was not encouraging. It's like, okay, well, we're not going to get off this plane anytime soon. But I was supposed to have landed at like 7 p.m. We finally got off the plane at 11:45. So that was my fun travel adventure for getting home.
I have had each of those things happen to me.
Yes.
Like the okay, we can't take off. Let's go park back at the gate. You can get off if you want to, come back. And I've had that happen to me. And I've had we have to sit here for an hour after we land to get a gate happen to me. Mm-hmm. I've never had them happen to me on the same flight.
Oh yeah. It was wonderful. And I will say the one thing that was the silver lining to this whole thing is that I had my Steam Deck with me. Welcome back to Pride and Accomplishment. I'm Chris.
And I'm Jason. This is episode 81.
So today I wanted to give us a little bit of time to talk about a TV show that Jason and I have been watching, and it is very good. The show is called Players, and it is on Paramount Plus, streaming only.
And you may be saying right now, whoa, guys, you're a gaming podcast now. You can't talk about TV shows. Well, let me tell you. This is the perfect League of Legends, MOBA, gaming, culture, esports TV show.
Yes. We have talked a little bit in the past about the Dota Dragon's Blood TV show, which is animated, and the Arcane League of Legends show, which is also animated. This is a show that's live action about people who play League of Legends. So it's not an in-universe. It's in the real world. Like it's people that are like watching players, if you will, who play League of Legends professionally, like esports.
It talks about this team called Fugitive, which is not a real team. Trust me, I've tried to buy their jersey. It's not possible, and I'm a little upset about it. But it follows this team named Fugitive and some of the characters on that team. And they start as, a nobody team, right? It's kind of like a rise to fame kind of story. And, it talks about, it does a lot of like moving between like time periods where it's got this like repeated scene or repeated it's like a
title card
graphic. Yeah, where it'll circle the current year and then it'll go back to like 2016 and be like, oh, okay, this story is about 2016 now. But it's in the what do you call those? Is it a mockumentary? Is it like a documentary style, like The Office kind of thing?
I think the technical term is mockumentary because it's fictional. I did talk to a couple of friends and I was like, oh man, have you seen Players? And somebody was like, oh yeah, I didn't watch that. Is that like, a documentary about League? And I was like, no, I mean, yes, but no. Like it's so much more than a documentary about League. So it's fictional. It's all scripted. It's all made up, but it is very well done to the point where it's hard to tell whether these people, at the beginning at least, it's hard to tell whether these people are real players or actors.
I mean, the first 2 episodes, we were kind of like we were pretty sure it was fictional, but we were double checking.
Yeah, it's very, very realistic, very relatable, I would say, especially if you have gone through, college as a gamer and seen people who set up their spaces when they are gaming in college. They have a lot of these flashbacks to like all of their team living in the same house, like as like an off-campus housing type of thing. And it's very believable. Like, Red Bull cans all over the place and they're doing shots of hot sauce and all sorts of stuff like that. And like stupid pranks and everything else. It's just very, very realistic, I would say.
I mean, and they also, even with the props, they did such a good job, right? Because the keyboard the guy uses is like, you and I were just, but like, that's the Logitech G15. We both had that. Like, of course, everyone had that keyboard. And like when it shows some of the flashbacks inside the computer, the graphics cards that are used are like correct for the time period. They're very good. It was really well done.
Yeah, that Logitech G15, I still have one in my house. The one thing I will ding them for, and this is really nitpicky and that's just me, is that they do show the like keyboard that this main character, whose name is Cream Cheese, and the other thing that's interesting, sorry, sidetrack, they do talk a lot about like all these people, and they refer to them almost exclusively by their gamer tags. And so you've got, you know, Cream Cheese and Organism and Nightfall and Bop, you know, and whoever else. And it's just like they all talk to each other as their tags, which I guess as a real person in real life, I can't think about like correctly, but like I guess I understand that people do that.
I think that's pretty normal. I think, I don't know how many team settings you've been in, like team sports and whatnot. You know, my brother was big into football, so I was kind of into that high school, ancillarily into that football scene a little bit. I was on a swim team, band. I don't know if you were, but a lot of people refer to each other by their nicknames. No one knows anyone's real name. There were some people that I did not know their real name. I straight up did not know their real. So that was less weird to me. And I think in an environment like this, I bet it actually is kind of real that they're referred to by, you know, their online alias rather than their real name.
I guess that's true. I guess I was finding that like, you know, their coaches and like the owner of the team and like everybody they interacted with referred to them by their gamer tag, which is, I mean, it makes sense, right? That's their professional identity. Like that's what's written on their jersey. I understand that. It's just,
I mean,
it took a
people
bit.
People are going to call, God, like I can think
Shroud.
of like artists. Shroud. You're going to call Shroud. Some people call him Mike, right? But he's Shroud. You know, or you think of the more popular, like, I'm thinking about like Lady Gaga or
Dead Mouse.
Like people are not going to call them by their real name, right?
That's
Unless
true.
you like know them personally before they were famous. You're going to refer to them as their professional identity.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'd expect fans to refer to people by their names. It's just that this was showing them like hanging out in their house that they are like the team house, and they would always talk to each other by their gamer tags. And I thought that like there would be a little bit more of an unmasking when you were in a casual setting, and that might have just been a TV thing. I guess, you know, if there's anybody,
I will tell you. No, I've got real world experience now. Now I'm thinking about. You got me thinking now, and this was not in our show notes at all. But I love this topic. Have you ever gone to a conference, like a gaming conference or like a anything like that, where you met people that you originally met online?
I'm not sure if I have. Like I don't have that broad of a online friend base of people I haven't met in real life.
Okay, so I went to the Sony Online Entertainment Conference back when I played Star Wars Galaxies, and not my whole guild, but probably like 8 people from my guild in Star Wars Galaxies went to the conference.
Mm-hmm.
And we all sat together at everything, and we all did everything. And I learned their faces, and I knew most of their real names. We all called each other by our online name.
Wow. Okay.
Like, that was what we referred to each other as in person, in real life. That's what each other was referred to as. And that's just the way it was. Like that's how we identified those people. So that's what their name was.
Okay. All right. You've changed my mind a little bit on this one. I'll give it to you.
It wasn't weird either. Now that like we think about it, it wasn't weird. It was like when I heard someone's voice, the name that came into my head, right, was the name I knew them by, because that's what I had always called them.
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay. I could see that.
In any case, it just goes to show that this show does a really, really good job of like keeping true to culture and the environment and like everything. And it made it feel really, really good. And the fact that we're having this conversation about like how they interacted with each other, this show was beautifully written for the kind of show it is. You don't expect that, but it was so well written that I couldn't get over it.
Yeah, we started out very much like oh, I don't know, like this show is, maybe we can watch it only if we watch it as a group. Like it's something to pass the time. Like we all kind of dunk on it a little bit and like laugh at these guys being college guys and like, oh, ha ha ha, they have this keyboard. Oh, ha ha, look how stupid they are doing shots of hot sauce. And then by the end of it, we very much got into the like, these people, we cared about them, like the characters, the interpersonal relationships and all of that. Like they did a very good job of developing these characters over the course of just a 10 episode season of like 30-minute episodes.
Are you ready to dunk on some people? Because I am.
Okay.
Chris and I watch a lot of Star Trek, right? We watch almost all the Star Trek.
That's true.
Right? And here we go. We watch Discovery, we watch Picard, we watch all of them. Now there are some good ones, but we're constantly making that comparison, right? Because Star Trek has been such a disappointment. Some of the Star Treks have been such a disappointment, particularly Picard and Discovery have been huge disappointments in terms of writing, and you just don't care about those characters. You're just like, I've been with these characters for 4 or 5 seasons now. Why do I not care about any of them? And then you come over to this game called Players about League of Legends college age esports pros, and you're like, I shouldn't give any. I shouldn't care about these people at all. Like. This is very obviously fictional now that we're into the 4th episode or whatever. I shouldn't care, but you do. And it just goes to show how well this show is written and what a good job they've done with the story and showing you like the things they need to show you and not forcing things in your face, but letting you kind of figure them out internally on your own. Oh God, beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, they even got to the point, and I don't want to spoil anything. Like, I really, like, we're trying not to, like, get into detailed plot points, but there was something where they even did, like, a multi-episode setup where they, like, introduced a character and they made you care a lot about the story about that character, and then that character just, like, disappeared for 2 episodes, and then they came back, and you're like, oh, hey, that's why they did the thing with them 2 episodes ago, and you're like, oh my gosh, this show is actually pretty well written.
I know what you're referring to, and that's so. Yes, I'm like we watch this show in Discord, right? We watch it all together, kind of as when we push play at the same time, the way we watch most of our things. It's a great way to watch things because as you're sitting in the middle of the episode, someone else is thinking a totally different thing than what you're thinking, and usually what I was thinking was, where did that character go? Where'd they go?
Jason was definitely keeping us all reminded of the characters that had come and gone. But we found them all in the end, so good news. If you're looking for a show, I would say with a lot of, like, it ties everything up very nicely, and the show is not renewed for a 2nd season yet, as far as I know. So even as its own thing in a single season, it, I think, tells a good story in kind of a self-compartmentalized way. And I really did appreciate that, since there's so many shows now that are written with kind of big cliffhanger endings, and, like, this one has enough potential for a 2nd season, but it doesn't need a 2nd season.
Agreed. They wrapped it up nicely. There is a story to be had for a 2nd season, but I would not be. I would be disappointed because it was such a good show. But they have tied the knot on basically all of the storylines.
The one thing I did learn a lot about was the structure of the, like, LCS, the League Championship Series, and, like, what it takes to kind of for a team that's amateur, that is starting out from nothing. Maybe they're not even franchised or signed up with any big name, and, like, they went through the whole process of, like, there's, I don't know, 6 or 7 tiers that you have to play up through before you get to, like, the North American NA finals. And I just haven't really followed esports on the league side, but watching this show really did make me look up a few things about, like, what the rules are and, like, what the team rules are, and kind of orders of point of order kind of stuff. Like, in one case they talk about being fined from the league, and I'm like, oh, what are the fines for the league? So I looked it up, and there's actually, like, a web page where they tell you, if you have unsportsmanlike conduct, they charge you $1,000, like, as a team. So it's just interesting things like that you can find, and I think it's working. So I'm pretty sure this is a giant marketing pitch for League of Legends. And as far as making me care about League of Legends, the game, this has done a lot of that. Maybe not to the point where I'm playing it a lot, but I am interested in kind of the esports scene around it more than I was.
Yeah, it definitely did its job. I mean, we as a group that watched it were just like, should we be playing League? And I think and
then we very quickly said no.
We very quickly said no, but the answer that we kind of came up with was no, we definitely shouldn't be playing League because no, thank you. But maybe we should be watching League.
Yes, exactly. Because following that, I mean, I've never been able to hold my own attention on an esports thing, even in Dota 2. Like I've never really followed a particular team super closely. And I'm wondering now, after having watched this show, whether I should be doing more. Like, oh yeah, I should try to pick a team and kind of watch it like a sports team, you know?
Yeah. The other thing that I really like about esports is that the teams span multiple games. So even if you root for one in one game, you actually have a team in, right? If you're a Cloud9 fan, or if you're a Team Liquid or whatever, you have not just League, you have Dota, you have Call of Duty, you have, God, what are more easy? Rocket League, maybe Valorant. You've got all these games that you just instantly have a team for.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, I used to like Team Liquid way back in the day, probably 6 or 7 years ago, but I couldn't tell you anything about them today. But they used to be a big Dota team. And Dota has a whole bunch of stuff, not to super change the subject, but they have a whole bunch of esports stuff built into their game client now, where you can like collect player trading cards and like build your fantasy teams and like do fantasy sports around Dota matches during tournaments. So you kind of bet on, like, not bet, but like not with money, but you know, you make these picks based on, oh, I get fantasy points based on if the, you know, my team does well doing these things. And so I do think there's a lot of depth there, and I've just never put any sort of real effort into it. And now I'm kind of considering for the upcoming international season, maybe I will give it a shot.
Was there anything about players that you didn't like?
I think there were a couple of characters, and I did say that everything got tied up nicely, but I think there were a couple of characters where I think they could have gone more places with them. Like there were a couple of minor characters that I think they could have developed a little bit more. My one nitpick that I was going to talk about that I got myself sidetracked on earlier was the keyboard that the main character uses. They show like, oh, the Q, W, and E keys and an R key are all worn down. And they showed a close-up of it, and it just looked like they had scratched it off with like some pointy object, not like it was worn down like you'd expect on a keyboard that you use day in, day out. So that was like my one like accuracy nitpick, which I know is super, super tiny, but you know, there's for everything else they did right, this was the one thing that I could find that I was like, ooh, I don't think that's quite right.
Yeah, and I'll follow it up with I didn't even notice. So
I know, I'm just nitpicky like that.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think overall it was really good. I think there was one episode that I thought was like, oh, that was kind of a filler, not filler, but like didn't really move things forward too much. But I did think they did a nice job of kind of picking different focuses for different episodes and then really elaborating on those and giving it room to breathe a little bit.
Yeah, there were 10 episodes, and I agree. Like, except for one, every one of them hit. And the one that didn't was just kind of like, okay, well, all right, fine, whatever. But the other 9, you were just like that and some of them hit hard, but they did such a good job every episode. And I really liked that. I mean, it turned from a show that like, oh man, maybe we're going to have to slog through, to something where like I had to resist watching it without the group because I wanted to watch more.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I did want more of in the show was a little bit more like gameplay footage. I mean, they had a lot of gameplay footage, and for the ones that they really set up as like plot points, they explained it like almost too well. Like they had these, you know, their documentary people sit there in the room sitting on the little, you know, overstuffed chair talking to the camera with their little nameplate on the bottom, right? And they'd be like, well, what happens is when you have a jungler, their job is to run around the jungle and kill the creeps there to get experience for the team, or whatever it was. You know, I'm making that one up. But they would explain like, you know, this hero pick or champion pick in League was poor because XYZ, or was risky because, you know, ABC. And I was like, oh, those are kind of cool. And then they would show like some amount of gameplay footage where they would show like, you know, the main characters playing League, kind of, you know, sitting in front of computers and getting really excited and giving, you know, lines and whatnot. I guess I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of the casters, or like gameplay with the casters talking about the gameplay. more, but I guess that really wouldn't have been super exciting from a dramatic standpoint. Maybe I just want like them to do a director's cut where they just show like one or two of the actual games that they recorded to make the show and like have their casters cast it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going to go. Like all of the game footage, right, where they were showing the top down actually League of Legends view with the casters talking over top of it. What you would actually see if you were watching, you know, an LCS, all was like B-roll, right? It was always kind of filler or transition roll. When I wanted there to be some like a role, like this is actually what we're trying to show you right now for an extended period of time. I wanted it to be a scene, right? I wanted the game to be an extended scene, whereas most of the time it was ancillary, right? It was support to what they were trying to tell you in some other form.
Yeah, as I'm thinking about it now, when we're talking about it, something like a top-down view of the League of Legends map and like showing all of the things, and they might have done this in like the second episode, but I don't remember, like showing like a tutorial almost of the game, because in the show, kind of the main character guy is a support, and he's a support for an attack damage carry, an ADC, and the whole central drama is that there's a new ADC in town, and that's kind of the thing. And that's not a spoiler, that's in the trailer. But they like I barely know the rules of League other than through Dota. Like I know there's 3 lanes, and I know it's, you know, top, bottom, and mid, and like I know there's a jungle, and I know there's a Baron, and that's about all I know about League. So I would have appreciated maybe a little bit more. As much as they spelled things out, I wanted like a diagram, like I wanted a picture, right? Show me like the game setup, and like maybe even show when they're talking about this was such a big strategic deal for this team to have lost in this way or won in this way or whatever. Like show me with little X's and O's and John Madden style drawings on a map.
That's exactly what I was thinking, is like Sports Center style. Someone goes up to a board and draws with a marker on the League of Legends map, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like give me that, like that detailed thing. Like give me something where they really show me what's going on, because I think that was the thing I was maybe missing about the gameplay side of it. And I understand, you know, as a drama, as a dramatic TV show, you don't need that, right? The gameplay, it happens, but it's kind of is in service to the bigger story. But I almost wish, as a gamer, I wished there was a little bit more game to the show.
Yeah, they were really good about explaining the rules and the drama of certain picks. They were not as, they didn't place as much importance on like explaining the tactics of the game, right? And that's kind of what that X's and O's and diagram kind of stuff is the tactics, right? The how do you win, or how do you win a competitive game? So yeah, no, I would have liked more of that. That would have been cool. I'm imagining the same thing you are, and I'm going back over to the show, and they never did really any of that.
They actually did do that in one of the internationals for Dota. They actually had some fancy like touchscreen thing, almost like the things they have on election night on CNN. Like they had this big touchscreen thing, and they had one of their big caster people who was also a streamer get there with like a little marker e-pen kind of thing and like draw on the board, and like he had like little things where you could pull up clips and stuff, and he could show you all these things. Like if there's something like that for League that they even have like in the real world, if they brought that in and was just like, and here's our main caster guy who's going to explain what just happened in this show, almost like you would see on a real broadcast, or you know, exactly like you'd see on a real broadcast, that would have been really nice. And one quick point on the casters, they had personalities from around the kind of League universe, you know, the extended Twitch universe.
Oh yeah, they were real casters. I think Ninja made an an appearance. There were a bunch of like streamers from Twitch, like real actual streamers at some of the parties that they were having, you know, the invite everyone that's important in the gaming industry. They were real streamers. They were, you know, they weren't, I mean, they were actors, but they weren't actors. They were the real people. So that was cool. I mean, that's what you would expect in like a sports movie, right? Like you would expect to see the people that are on SportsCenter in the movie. So you would expect to see the people that are in the League of Legends esports in the show about League of Legends esports.
Yeah, every time they showed one of them, because they would show, their first name, then their tag, and then their last name, like you would. And I would like Google them. Like I would search their name and I was like, yes, that one's a real one too. And like all of them were real. And I was really impressed with that level of kind of thoroughness about it, because they had 3 or 4 recurring casters that they like interviewed or featured as part of the interviews that they had multiple times on the show. So that was a really nice touch.
All in all, we really just wanted to do an episode of P&A on players, just because of genuinely how impressed we were with the show. So I highly recommend, even if you're not a League player, if you're just generally a gamer, highly recommend this show.
Yeah, it's also a great kind of intro to esports as a concept, I would say. Like it does give you a pretty nice little intro to that without having to jump into the deep end of like watching the LCS finals or whatever, because this kind of, it's fictionalized and it's, dramatized and everything else, but it does give you a feel for like how people come into this world and like how they do this stuff and how they get into teams and how the teams work with the league and everything else. So like it's a good primer for all of that stuff, I think, in addition to being a great drama show. So 2 thumbs up for players. That's really the moral of the story here.
Chris, you mentioned Dota's Dragon's Blood earlier in the show.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I got an email from Netflix that said, hey, Dota Dragon's Blood Season 3 is out. And I'm thinking to myself, well, 1, I don't have Netflix right now. Like, I'm not subscribed to Netflix right now. So good job, marketing team. And 2, I never watched Season 2.
Yeah. We watched Season 1 together. It was really good. Maybe not as good as Arcane, but it was really good.
That's true. Arcane, it was different. But Dragon's Blood was anime, and Arcane was more, I don't know, animated, not so much anime.
Sure, fine, whatever.
But yes, Dota Dragon's Blood was still a good show. Like it was, I intend to get back to it someday. I hope we should really get on that.
We should. You're going to need to get Netflix back, though.
All right, fine.
So it was a good job by the marketing team.
No, I know that was not sarcastic. That was actually like, good job, marketing people. You know that I want to watch this show, and you're telling me that it's here now. I think that show came out quickly, though. I feel like Season 2 was just coming out in like January. Like the animated stuff, they're really cranking them out.
Yeah, it's a little easier, but we're going to need to catch up. We've got 1 week of rest in between, players and the next Star Trek show. Man, is that a franchise that does it right?
Yes, which is Star Trek Lower Decks, and everyone should watch Lower Decks also.
Lower Decks is the best.
So basically what we're saying is you should get a subscription to Paramount Plus, watch Players, and also watch all 3 seasons of Star Trek Lower Decks. Even if you don't really love Star Trek, it's actually a pretty funny, like, adult cartoon show, but not super adult, if you know what I mean.
In any case, go watch Players. Go watch, video game stuff. It's all good. All of it's good. Like everything that we've talked about this on the show before. Everything that's coming out now, that's TV wise, that's been, video game related. It's been surprisingly good. So go watch it. And we'd love for, you to talk about it and let us know. I really, really want people to go watch Players though, because I want there to be a season 2. So the more people we get to go watch Players, the better.
Yes.
And let us know what you think. Let us know if you were as stunned by it as we were. You can join our Discord by visiting discord.pnapodcast.com.
If you want to read our show notes or find any of our older episodes, I'll put a link to the Players page on Paramount Plus in the show notes so that you don't have to use Paramount Plus's kind of bad search interface. You can visit our website at pnapodcast.com. That's P, the letter N, the letter A, podcast.com.
If you're enjoying the show, we would love if you could share it with some others that may enjoy it as well.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you next time. Jason, I finally finished It Takes Two.
Was it not an amazing game?
It was a way better than it had any business being game.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give you that.
Like it was very, very good.
Are we going to talk spoilers here? Or are we not going to talk spoilers here?
I'm thinking since now we're kind of in a post-show situation, we can probably say, after a certain point, we're going to get into spoilers, and maybe that point is now. And so if you're, planning to play It Takes Two or care at all about kind of spoilers in the story and all of that, then maybe now is the time for us to say goodbye.
I highly, highly recommend that you play It Takes Two with a completely fresh mind.
Yes.
Without any spoilers.
Agreed.
Highly recommend. But we are going to talk about spoilers for It Takes Two because it is really important to talk about in how you evaluate the game. But please go play it first before you listen to this segment.
Yes.
Okay, you've been warned. Chris.
Yes, Jason.
My favorite scene in the whole game
Uh-huh.
was when you are killing the elephant.
Oh my goodness. That
I loved that scene.
that was like serial killer evil. Like that was so
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
We were laughing so hard.
Oh man, we were like, I mean, yes, we were laughing, but like also this poor elephant in its little British voice is just like, "Oh no, why are you pulling off my leg?" And you're like, I'm sorry. The game is making me do this.
Off.
Yeah. No, that
God.
was I was shocked at that particular interaction.
That scene was amazing. This game is so happy-go-lucky, and you're just like, okay, we're gonna go kill an elephant. Fine, that's fine. We're gonna make her cry, and you're like, oh, they're gonna throw it off the top of the tower. No big deal. Like whatever,
Yeah, it's
gonna
animal.
fall.
It'll be
And it's gonna, whatever. It's a stuffed animal. But no, you sorry. You shred that thing. We're gonna keep that in too. We're just gonna bleep it. You shred that thing before dumping it off the side of the tower.
Oh, and then it doesn't even work.
Oh my God, it was so funny. I loved that scene so much.
I will say from a gameplay perspective, I think my favorite part was the space one, the Moon Baboon world with all the
those were cool. Those were cool puzzles. Yeah. No,
the little puzzle rooms.
From a gameplay perspective, I got giddy. Like I got genuinely giddy and happy and like rush of like good, happy, warm, fuzzy feelings when it turned into an ARPG.
Oh yeah, I remember they did. Yeah,
with the wizard and the fire sword, and you're just like, oh my God, oh my God, this is now an ARPG. Like this is amazing.
Yeah, no, that was pretty cool too. They had a lot of good references in there. I mean, so I just finished this game today, so the end of the game is very fresh in my mind, and they like completely did Rainbow Road. Like that was amazing. I was just like, hey,
oh God, remind me. What did they do Rainbow Road?
At the end, you're in the music world and you're doing the music stuff, and you have to go get the audience, which is all the glow sticks, and you play the little Overcooked thing where you have to do the thing, which is pretty easy and not that challenging. And then you get to the end of it and they're like, oh, we're gonna suck you up into this like audio cable, or I don't know, whatever the premise was. But then you go into this area where you're just like, I don't know, running, I think, skating, falling, whatever. You straight up do. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. And it's just it opens onto this rainbow place and you're like, wait, is this Rainbow Road? And then like one of the characters says like, this place looks kind of familiar. And you're like, yes, they are doing Rainbow Road. So they definitely, and then if you fall, I don't know if you remember this, but if you ever did, but if you fall off the edge, the book brings you back like the Lakitu, like he brings you back onto the track and sets you down.
That's funny.
So yeah, they definitely they knew what they were doing there.
They just made so many good references to so many good games. And they just did, it was like I said, when you started playing, right? When I recommended this game, this is such a good game to someone that knows video gaming and knows the history and has played a lot of video games in their life, and someone that may have not, right? The two of them together. Because if you've played a lot of video games, you recognize all these references and you're just like, I get what they're doing here. And if you don't, it's still a fun game.
Oh yeah, totally. It's still got the mechanics. It's still got the story. Like it doesn't beat you over the head with it. But if you know, you know.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, that was good. The little the snow globe town, right? The little
Oh yeah,
chalet or whatever.
Yeah,
that was fun. I enjoyed that. I would say that I really enjoyed the back half of the game more than the front half by a decent bit. I did not particularly care for the squirrels and all of the stuff that entailed.
Oh, the bees? I liked the bees and the squirrels.
Yeah, the bees. Well, the bees were okay. So I will say that I played this with my wife, who is not at all in any way a console gamer. Like, she's definitely a casual gamer, but not someone who grew up playing video games or having video game systems, or like, you know, even an NES or a Super Nintendo. Like, so she's not super fluent in kind of the gaming things that we're all kind of used to, right? So she's not super good at doing movement and camera control at the same time in a 3D space, in a 3D platformer, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, the two sticks are hard for people that aren't used to it.
Right. And so that was a bit of a learning curve for her, and that was sometimes frustrating to the point where it was not fun in certain areas. I will say that the squirrel thing, when you had to fight that the beetle, that was probably the hardest boss fight that we had, because it required so much coordination from the two players, and you had to like fill the one thing and then shoot the other thing. And typically I noticed that they would give a lot of the shooting of things tasks to the male character, Cody. And I thought that was interesting and perhaps a little stereotypical, but it also worked really well in our favor because I was better at doing the shooting things. So,
yep. Yeah. I don't think it was an accident.
Yeah. And if they assume that people will play the, you know, stereotypical genders and have had the stereotypical upbringings, but in that particular area, May, the female character, she has the gun, and so she has to do the aiming, and that was definitely a challenge for us. Fortunately, the game is super forgiving about, you know, respawning you and stuff, and you don't have like lives and whatnot, and like there's no game over screen. But for those bosses, especially that particular boss, it was not as forgiving as we might have hoped in terms of like giving you progress, you know, like, oh, you've killed the thing to half. Like, it was no, you're starting at the beginning again. And you're like, oh, great.
Oh, okay. I don't remember that, but yeah, that would have been frustrating.
I mean, we spent probably an hour on that one boss fight. It was pretty bad.
It was character building.
Yes.
One of my favorite kind of working together like games was the time you're in the ship and each of you controls a hamster wheel.
Oh yeah, that was really fun.
And you're shooting. Oh god, that was so fun.
That was cool.
All you have to do is shoot, like walk forward or backwards, but you have to do it together, and that one was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. One thing, just real quick, and maybe this is the end of our conversation about it, but the very, very ending of the game, it felt like the emotional payoff was not quite earned based on the way that the story was going to that point. Like, you can kind of see it coming, but like it felt like it ratcheted up the pulling on heartstrings a little too fast almost. I thought, I don't know if you...
I'm not going to dock this game points for its story. Like, I guess I kind of agree with you, but this game was never about the story for me.
No, it was totally about the gameplay. Absolutely. But story-wise, the story was a little cheesy anyway, but like, and the little vignettes though, like the individual worlds were actually super good. That overarching kind of frame story was a little much.
Yeah, I did like the book though, man. I hated that freaking book as the start of the game, but by the end of it, it was so funny. They did such a good job of like taking this theoretically villain, right? Like he's almost the villain at the beginning of the game because he's doing this to them, right? But then by the end of it, like everything he says is funny.
Yeah, my wife and I have definitely found ourselves in real life saying to each other, collaboration. Like, it's kind of bad. I mean, in a great way, it's kind of bad.
The most visually stunning level for me was the clock.
Oh,
sure.
Yeah, the clock was really good.
Oh gosh, and just how they I mean, that was just all the moving parts and all of the metal, and that was when I think of like what I think of when I think of It Takes Two, and like the most like visually diverse, or like, you know, what level really sticks out. It's the level design of the clock.
Yeah, that one was really, really good. I agree. The clock was cool.
I'm glad you liked it in the end. I was really worried because at the beginning, like you said, the beginning was a little slower and you know, you're getting into it, but I was really worried. I'm glad you liked it in the end because I think it's a great game.
Oh yeah, I would absolutely recommend. I mean, if you have somebody else in your life that you get along with well enough to play this game. It helps, I think, if you are related to them or romantically interested in them. But I don't think that's a requirement. Like, you could certainly play it with friends, but it probably is a better team building experience if that's what you're going for. So I would recommend that if you have the ability to play it with your significant other or perhaps a sibling. That would be a good game or good setting for that. I do hope, and I think we've talked about this before, but I do hope that this encourages them to make more games like this that are like forced co-op, because I think this one was pulled off just excellently well, and hopefully they can do it again in some other form.
I mean, I hope so. I mean, it won all kinds of awards. It sold so many copies, even with its sales model, right? It's the one where only one of you has to own it.
Right.
And you can play online together. And it sold bunches of copies and won Game of the Year awards. I really hope they do it again. A Way Out was their first one, and it was a little bit more serious, a little bit more, it was about a prison and a prison break and all of that. So it was a little bit more serious, but it was that same like forced co-op kind of gameplay. I hope they stay in the more cartoony kind of side of it, because I think that works better. But I'm really hoping for another one like this. There are some others. I mean, there's Tale of Two Brothers is another one. You can play it alone with like 2 sticks on your controller, but it is much better as a shared experience. And then obviously there's the God, what are those called?
We Were Here.
We Were Here. Yeah, there's those that are kind of forced co-ops. There are some others, but none of them are the same kind of style as It Takes Two, and I really hope they do more like that.
One thing I will say about It Takes Two is it was a long game.
It was. I mean, it was what, 20 hours?
Something like that. I mean, it was a long game for us, at least.
Yeah. No, it was longer than I expected, but in the end, I wasn't disappointed by that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. No, it was definitely, you got your money's worth for it, for sure. And I got it from EA Play. We started playing it on EA Play on PC, and I ended up buying it on PS5 on a sale. And that's actually how we played this playthrough, was on the PS5 on the big TV. So they definitely got their money from me.
No, yeah, worth it.
So another thing that we're recommending in this episode, It Takes Two. If you haven't played it, go play it.